Hey friends, it's Chad Gonzales. Hey, do you like our YouTube channel? I mean, you're here, you're watching this. My question to you is this: have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? If not, hey, click that button, like and subscribe, hit that bell, hit the notification button so that you don't miss out on any of the new content that's here. We want you to be not just a viewer, we want you to be a subscriber. So again, hit like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of the brand new content right here on the Chad Gonzales Ministries YouTube channel. God bless you. Remember in Christ, we always win. Hi, I'm Chad Gonzales, and I want to tell you a little bit about my journey. Back in 2001, I was going to Texas A&M. I was working on my master's degree, and I stopped school there and moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma to go to Bible school. And while I was there, I met this cute, beautiful blonde named Lacey. I was 25 years old, she was 19. I kept seeing her in the gym there at the school over those first few months, and so I finally asked her out. It was April in 2002, and we went to On the Border in Tulsa, Oklahoma for our first date. Had dinner there, went to a movie, and I just fell in love with her. And the rest was history.
Hi, I'm April, and I met Martin in 1996. And about the year of 1999, I began to like Martin, have a little crush on him, and started inviting him over to my family's house for dinner and games, and got to hang out a lot and really get to know each other, and him get to know my mom and dad, which was really important, and my brothers. Family is so important to me. But he began to take some trips to Peru, so I didn't have any way of communicating with him. No phone calls, no emails. Communication back then was really hard, so he started writing me letters. So this is where our relationship started. They started out with just sweet, hey, just wanted you to know I was thinking about you, and you always make me smile, and started turning into sweet little love letters. And that's where our relationship began.
We got engaged. I asked her to marry me on Christmas Eve, and that spring I graduated from school, and we got married 2 weeks after graduation and moved down to Beaumont, Texas, and what I call the God adventures of Chad and Lacey. We began this life together of just adventures with God, and so for the next 20 years we launched out in the ministry, started a church in Texas, and then took over a church in Arkansas and started another church in Arkansas, and just had the greatest of fun. I loved her because she trusted me and stepping out and making these massive steps of faith, and then we took the biggest step of faith in 2019 when we turned over our last church, and we both knew there was some change, and really felt like it was time to step out, and so started this new phase of ministry where I began to travel full time and going to churches and conferences, and that led us to moving to Oklahoma for 2 years, and then we moved to Tampa, which was our dream. I mean, we were so excited to be there in Tampa, be by the beach, and Lacey and Jake just loved Disney World, and so I was happy being by the beach. They were happy being by Disney, and just life was great. Our marriage was the best that it had ever been. Family ministry was the best it had ever been. Just enjoying life. We did a lot of ministry, a lot of travel to Lima, Peru, and a lot throughout the States. And later in years, we launched a church in Columbus, Mississippi.
We pastored there for 8 years and loved every second of it. And the Lord shared with us that we were to merge the church and that our time there was done. So as we took out the steps, trying to walk it out, figure out what we were doing next, the Lord led us back to Alabama. And trying to figure out what was next, Martin felt led to real estate. He's always had real estate and been very good at it. And so he jumped into real estate and was very successful. After years of being in real estate, he decided to buy his own franchise.
Well, during our time in Tampa, I had a meeting coming up in Dallas, Texas, and Jake and Lacey were extremely close. Definitely a mama's boy, and so it was very hard for me to try to get him to go do things with me without Lacey. But we love the Dallas Cowboys, and I had a meeting there in Dallas, and so I planned this weekend getaway for Jake and I while I was doing this conference. So I finally convinced him to go, and so he was excited to go. Now, about 3 weeks before the trip, Lacey had been experiencing some cramping in her stomach, some cramping, a little bit of nausea, and after about 2 weeks, I was like, this seems more than just like a food poisoning or something like that. That's what she initially thought it was, and maybe got a flu or something. We had a friend of ours that's a doctor, and so we talked to him, and he said, it really just sounds like this latest strain of COVID. It's affecting the gastrointestinal tract. And so he gave Lacey some advice and things to do and take, and so she seemed to be doing better. She was still having some cramping and some nausea, but she was starting to get up, walk around, and she was so excited. I was thrilled because she'd just gotten her dream car. It was this 1972 Ford Mustang, and it was like a dream car. She was so excited. It had just gotten there, and it was a late 40th birthday present. And so she seemed to be doing a little bit better, but it was on the Tuesday before my trip to Dallas. She said, she was in the bedroom. She said, "Hey, Chad, would you come pray with me?" And she said, "I'm just not feeling good." So, okay. So I went there and prayed with her. And I said, why don't you just go to the doctor and just have him check you out? Make sure it's not something other than COVID. And she said, "Chad, I just don't really want to go to the doctor, I just don't really want to go." I said, "Are you sure?" And she said, "Yeah." So I just left it alone. So that Saturday, Jake and I are getting ready to go on the trip to Dallas. And I told her, I said, "Look," I said, "we're going to be back late tomorrow night. I know you're not wanting to go to the doctor, but I already made you a doctor's appointment for Monday morning." It was at a clinic there in Tampa. And I said, "So when I get back tomorrow, if you're not doing any better, not feeling any better, then you're going to this appointment Monday morning." And she said, "Okay." So Jake and I, we leave for our trip to Dallas and get there Sunday morning, have our meetings there at the church, go to lunch, heading back to the airport at DFW. And Lacey calls me. It's about 6 o'clock. And she said, "Chad, I don't know what to do. I'm not feeling well at all." She said, my hands and my feet, I don't really feel them. And my tongue is starting to kind of go numb. And I said, "Look, at this point, I really don't care. Like, I'm calling 911, and I'm going to have them come pick you up and take you to the hospital. I don't want you being alone. And then when Jake and I, we get in, late tonight, we'll come to the hospital and come check on you, and we'll stay there through the night." She said, "Okay." So it took me a while of trying to get to 911 because we were in Dallas, and when you call 911, it's going to be local. So it took about 30 minutes of making phone calls, of trying to finally get connected to the one in dispatch in Tampa. Finally get in touch with them, tell them the situation. They said they're sending somebody, and they're on the way. So I called Lacey back, and it's around 7 o'clock now, and so I'm talking to her, and I told her 911 was on the way, and so I'm trying to encourage her, and while we're talking, she just stopped responding to me. And Jake, we're there at the gate, and Jake's beside me, and so I walked away, and so I'm kind of trying to yell on the phone without Jake knowing anything. She's not responding, so I hang up, call back several times, not getting a response. I try to get into our Alexa, It was in the bedroom, and it's not connecting, it's not working. And then the gate agent calls and says it's time to board the plane. And so I have to board the plane with my son, and all I know is 911 is on the way, and she's not responding, not answering the phone.
He bought his own franchise in June of 2021, and he was in the process of launching it. August of 21, Martin became sick. He was diagnosed with COVID and double pneumonia. At that time was when everything was still fresh with COVID and not knowing the answers to anything. So the doctors were giving us every regimen and step to do to keep us from going into the hospital. We followed all the steps with all the vitamins, all the different things that they could tell us to do, because they still were not educated enough with COVID to know what steps to take. We were taking all the steps we needed to take, and the doctor said if his numbers got below 85 that he needed to go to the ER with no questions asked. We were watching his numbers over the next couple of days, and they began to tank. He had gotten down to 72, and we both knew that he needed to go to the hospital. We had everyone praying. The churches were praying. Our friends, our prayer warriors were all praying for him. And at the same time, I had COVID, and my son did as well. Savannah had stayed shut off in her room away from us to keep from getting it, because she was moving off to college that next weekend. So we took him to the hospital, and they wouldn't even allow me in. That was the times when they were so strict. So I had to leave him there at the hospital waiting room. And during that time, I went home, continued to pray, and then began to rest myself, because I was trying to take care of him and Logan. My focus was more on them than myself, that I needed to rest and heal myself. He texted me to let me know that he was glad we made the decision for him to go to the hospital. He felt like he had more breath in his lungs and things were starting to turn around. A couple of days went by, and we had heard from him within, the first 24 hours, but after that, he wasn't texting or responding to my text anymore, and the hospitals were not communicating with us. I had a dear friend that is a doctor and also a mentor to my daughter, she's in the medical field and worked in that hospital, so she would go and give me updates of how he was doing. Things were looking good from her reports. That, I cannot remember anymore if it was the fourth or fifth day, when my friend had texted and said everything is great and his numbers are looking good, that he did not have to be incubated last night. When I received that text, I was at a relief, but at the same time, I didn't even know that we were questioning if he should be incubated. And so I was a little shocked to see that. But as I got that text, I was able to rest. Just closed my eyes for a little bit, and the phone rang, and it showed it was Martin calling me. So much excitement overtook me, and I answered the phone, and it was a nurse. And the nurse said, "Miss Andrews, this is Anne. I'm Martin's nurse. We're about to incubate him, and he's agreed to it, but we want you to say your last words just in case."
So I get on the plane, and right before we take off, I call the 911 dispatch. I was able to get in touch with them. I said, "Hey, like, what's going on?" And they said, "Look, because of HIPAA laws, we can't tell you anything." I was like, "I'm her husband, and I'm sorry, we can't tell you anything. All we can tell you is they're still on the scene." And I knew that wasn't good, because, it was probably about 30, 40 minutes now. And so I have to get on the plane with the information of they're still on the scene, and she stopped responding to me on the phone. So All Jake knows is I called 911 and they're going to take her to a hospital. And then when we get to Tampa, we're going to go to the hospital. So we get on the flight. Flight takes off. About an hour into the flight, somehow, some way, 35,000 feet up in the air, my phone rings. And it's the county sheriff there in Tampa.
At that time, I just began to speak the word to him. And, looking back, you realize I didn't even say the things that you'd say if you knew that it was your last moments talking to your loved one, your husband. And um, so I'm sharing, God's word and how he's going to be home tomorrow. Everything's going to be okay. And she said, he hears you. He's nodding his head. And I said, really quickly before she hung up, she said, well, he's waving bye. I said, I love you so much. And she said he waved, and then we hung up. At that moment, I was numb, but at the same time in a panic because I did not know we were going this direction at all, and fell to my knees crying. Called my mother-in-law. They were so sweet and just calmed me down and said, hey, come over to the house. You don't need to be alone. So I rushed over to their house, and the doctor called and said, Miss Andrews, we lost Martin's heartbeat, but we're trying to resuscitate him. Could you get to the hospital as soon as possible?
He said, Mr. Gonzales, I hate to tell you this. He said, typically we would never do this, but I'm aware of the situation. I know y'all are trying to get home. You got about 6 hours before you're going to be here. He said, I didn't want you traveling all this way, all this time, not knowing anything. And he said, but I just want to let you know when the paramedics arrived on the scene, they pronounced her dead on the scene. He said from everything they see, they're saying it was because of cardiac arrest. And so I get off the phone. My son's beside me. I know we got 6 more hours till we're going to be home. And for the sake of my son, I just didn't allow myself to feel. I took all my emotions, put them in a box, and just spent that time just praying and knowing I'm going to have the hardest conversation I've ever had in my entire life with Jake.
My father-in-law took me to the hospital. We rushed there. As we're heading down the driveway, my doctor friend called and said, hey, we've got him back, his heartbeat. Just get here as fast as you can. As I arrived to the hospital, my father-in-law and I were in the room, and the doctors asked us to take a seat. This was in the waiting room. Me not thinking of what take a seat means, I'm not even thinking of the movies when you take a seat. They tell you the bad news. And anyway, we sit down. He shares with us, we lost Mark's heartbeat. He came back. We lost it again. We couldn't get him back. I was angry and telling them that they didn't try long enough, that they didn't do this long enough. And in that moment, I was angry at them. I told them, I know you probably don't believe like I do, but I want to go back and lay my hands on him. And we were able to go back there, lay my hands on him, and just began to cry out to Jesus. And during that moment, I realized that my words were transitioning to begging Martin to come back, why he needed to be here, and how important it was. The last words that Savannah said to him before he left the house for the hospital was, Daddy, I need you. I need you to walk me down the aisle one day. And my son grabbed a hold of him and said, Dad, I need you to fight with everything in you. And he said, oh, I will, baby girl, and I will, son. And I know he fought with everything in him. But as I'm saying that to him at the side of his bed, we need you here. Your daughter needs you. Your son needs you. I need you. We're going to be grandparents one day. All of those things, I'm realizing that I'm now begging him to come back. And, he is at the feet of Jesus right now in his glory. And why would he want to come back to this? And I think at that moment, I just accepted what had taken place and really visualizing what he's seeing and what he's doing. After that, we went back home and I had to share the news with my son and with my daughter. And they were so incredibly strong. And the biggest testimony through all of it was that both of my kids at different times came to me and said, "Mom, I'm not mad at God." And that right there are so many adults that turn their back or are angry at God because of something that happens. They realize that it's the devil that comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And I just thank God that they know that and know who their Father is. And they know where Martin is. He's very much alive. It doesn't mean that we don't miss him and selfishly want him here. My kids are so strong, and God got us through every step of the way.
So we finally get to Tampa. It's 3 a.m. Getting off the plane, Jake's like, "Well, what hospital is Mom at?" And I said, "Well, I'm gonna call here in a few minutes. I'm just trying to prolong it. I'm trying to figure out what to say, how to handle this. Just praying about it." And we get to the parking garage, get in the Jeep. He's like, "All right, Dad, where are we going?" And I'll never forget it. I'm gonna look my son in the eyes, a sweet boy, and tell him we weren't going to the hospital, and tell him that his mom's no longer here, that she's in heaven.
I met actually April and Martin back in 2001. We went on a mission trip to Peru. Martin was the leader of that mission trip and I was a youth pastor. We became such good friends actually and became so close that Martin and April moved from Alabama to Louisiana, where we're from, to our hometown. He actually had an office in our church to run the Peru ministry out of there. And we just all became very good friends, cutting up, hanging out, and just enjoyed each other for a long time. So known April actually longer than I've known Chad, but I met Chad actually the next year.
We have had the pleasure of spending time and getting to know Chad Gonzales really over the last couple of years. But Chad came to our church back in April of 2022, and it was just a God connection.
It was a good marriage, and Chad remarked a lot of times, he said, "Well, she's my best friend," and I know that she loved Chad very much. She was always thinking of Chad, doing things for Chad, and as a mother-in-law, as a mom, I appreciated that so much, that how good she was to him and how much she loved him, and she was a wonderful mom for Jake. So I just really love those qualities about her.
So I've known Lacey. I knew Lacey actually longer than I knew Chad. I started in Bible school in late 1999. My first year was Lacey's second year. I played basketball, and Lacey and I had a mutual friend that introduced us. Now this mutual friend is a food lover. And Lacey was known for her cinnamon rolls. And so this mutual friend, Bryant, would ask Lacey for cinnamon rolls. And she'd show up with pans of cinnamon rolls and we would devour them. But I got to know Lacey through my friend, Bryant. Now, later on, when basketball season was really in swing, we would be in practice and Lacey would come into the gym and would work out. She was just always around. And so from my very early days, at Bible school, I knew Lacey. I can't remember the first time we met. It's just like we were always in the same friend circle from day one.
Well, her creativity is like inspirational, like to everyone. She was a very creative person, like Walt Disney level creative. Like some of the things she thought of, I don't know how she came up with, and it was like brilliant, genius ideas. And she was also very funny and humorous and a very goofy personality.
It was really cool. I saw my son just grow, and seeing him, just becoming the young man, the husband. My daughter had already gotten married, so I kind of knew what the experience was seeing a child get married, but he was the first son to marry. And but yeah, he just seeing what a great husband he was, and I was just very, very proud of him.
Actually, Chad was texting me from a Delta Airlines flight that the sheriff was at his house. We have a plane, and not a jet, but a small plane. And Chad wanted to know his flight was delayed that night. So even before Lacey passed, I was working out a situation there to get Chad from Atlanta to get him to Tampa, because we were trying to get him back there but by the time the sun came up the next day, I was there, and we made it. Chad he ended up catching the flight, and long story there, but ended up, yes, myself, Dave Fowler, and some other friends showed up at the house there with Chad when the tragedy happened with Lacey.
My mom passed away, and it's been pretty hard getting through it. God's helped me a lot.
My husband is the one who told me that he'd seen Chad post on Facebook that she wasn't here, and I just said no about, 40 times. Right, those kinds of things when they come out of left field feel incredibly unrealistic. Like, this can't be real, this couldn't be happening. And so yeah, I said no a lot. Like, I can't imagine the time without my friend, but obviously it was time for her to exit and enjoy some better things. And so, certainly having a love for Jesus, a relationship with Jesus, which I know many others in our crew do, has been incredibly helpful. Obviously, there's a peace that doesn't exist for people who don't believe, who don't understand what happens after your time on earth is done. And so, it's certainly been a process of kind of reconciling this unbelief with, I can't believe she's gone and can't call her, but also at the same time, I'm sure she's having way more fun than I could ever imagine.
So he called me and told me the circumstances and how everything happened. And it's one of the saddest stories in the world. But there was hope and belief. There was faith in the conversation. There was, I'm not letting her go. I'm not letting her go. I've got to get my mind right, got to keep my mind right, but I know what the Bible says, and I'm not letting her go. It's going to be a couple days before I can be with her, but she's coming back. I'm not letting her go. And that gave me strength. That gave me strength, and I was able to lock on with him. And from there, over the course of the next 4, 5, 6 days, whatever that turned out to be, I think that we encouraged each other back and forth.
I told him then, I said, I just wish I could just walk through this phone and be right there. I don't know what else, I don't know what I could do when I get there, but I just wanted to just hold him tight. And my concern was immediately, what's the future? Because Jake and Lacey were very, very close. Chad and Lacey had a wonderful marriage. Chad was able to, because she was a stay-at-home mom, he was able to travel a lot, and it just all worked very well. So immediately your mind goes, now what? What happens next? Where do they move on from? How do they move forward from here? What's the next step?
earlier this year, his wife passed away, Lacey, and we were in a position to be able to kind of walk through that, with him, and kind of know the circumstances surrounding that, and just believe God with him, and just have conversations with him, just as a pastor, and just being able to just share that journey with him, and that was really amazing.
About 2 years ago now, actually I had just moved out to go to my first year of college, and it was the day before my first day of classes when I found out that my dad unexpectedly passed away. And so I didn't get to start when everyone else did, and I went home immediately. I stayed home for about a week. And then I guess to escape all of it, I just wanted to jump back into school, but also I was really determined to still go through with my education, and I didn't want to get super far behind from everyone because I knew that's what my dad would have wanted.
Martin was a great son-in-law. He had a lot of great wit, so wonderful with his children. He just, to me, the perfect dad that would always be there to listen, always letting the children trust him. They knew they could come to him, and he would give them straight up answers, but he always made them think about exactly what they needed to do. I love that about him. One of my favorite things about him was that he picked up one day when the tornado was coming through. It was heading our way, and he called and he said, "Now, Mimi, I want you to be quiet. I'm going to pray, and I want you to get in agreement with me." But that's how he was. He would always look out for everyone. He was the protector, and that's what I appreciate about him. Plus a great hunter, because he had great deer meat all the time. But my thing about Martin is the heart with his children and how much he loved them, and that he would stop and listen, and he would give them what they needed. And that's the quality that every dad should have, but he carried that well. And we loved him so much. Wish he was still here some days, but we wouldn't take it back for anything because he's with our Father. He's walking around with Jesus right now. We do miss him though, and he was wonderful.
My dad was always so serious about work ethic, and that's something that he always wanted me to have and always taught my brother and I to have. But I really feel like I got my determination and my drive from him, and sometimes that's a blessing and a curse because I can be very stubborn like my dad. And I feel like I got a lot of things from my dad, like my stubbornness, but also my wit, because something that my dad was known for is what we call his Martinisms. And basically, these are phrases you've never heard anyone in your life say, and he would just whip them out like that. And they would always make people laugh, but also go like, what was that? And so I feel like I still try and keep the Martinisms alive. I guess we can call them Savannah-isms, but But speaking of work ethic, he always pushed me in my academics, and that was something that my dad was always very proud of, was my work ethic in school. And something that was a big dream of his, but also a dream of mine, was for me to be a first-generation college student. And so, when he passed away, that was right before I started school, and I knew that I couldn't let that loss or that tragedy take away from the dream that he wanted me to fulfill. I mean, he was so proud that I made it there and made it there on scholarship. He was telling everyone about it, which felt good, So every day that I'm in school, which I'm about to graduate, every day I try to make my dad proud in school, because I know that that's something he was so excited for me to pursue.
So I had received a phone call from my cousin who was in the hospital, and it was a sudden, hey, I'm in the ER and this is what's going on. So I told her I was coming, I'm coming tonight. I'm coming to see you, I'm coming to pray for you. And she said, you know, hold off, come tomorrow. So the next day comes and I'm in the hospital room with about, at the moment, 7 people. And Chad and David Porter walk in the room, and I meet Chad for the first time. And as the room is full of people, Chad walks up to Danica to begin praying for her, puts his hand on her shoulder, and she yells, "Stop," and looks around the room. At this point, you know, we have 9 people in the room, and she points at me across the room and said, "You're supposed to be up here, and you're supposed to be laying hands on me too." So I walked to her and I put my hand on her shoulder, and we both began to pray for her.
Well, you know, we met in the hospital room, and for us, those 3 numbers, 914, those 3 numbers are a big deal for us, because that was a hospital room that we met in. And, you know, I thought I was going in just to minister to a partner of mine. Little did I know I was literally going to walk into a room that was literally going to be a miracle, an answer to, well, actually, I don't even know that, I can't even say that I prayed the prayer, because I remember sitting down, and it was several weeks after Lacey was gone, and just the reality is hitting me in the face of, you're a single dad, like, what's the ministry going to look like, or how are you going to get through this? And I remember sitting down and writing down a list of just a couple of things that were non-compromise. These are things that if I was to ever get married again, these aren't even desires or dreams. These are like basic needs that I will not compromise on. And one of those was someone that was ministry minded, to someone that believed like I did, which just those 2 things I knew was already narrowing it down considerably, because I only got a couple of guy friends that even are in that position. Number 3, I wanted someone that was a widow, which sounds crazy, but I didn't want someone that was never married or divorced, because I wanted someone that would be able to, number 1, understand what I've gone through. And number 2, I wanted someone for my son, for Jake, so that, because of going through that themselves and understanding, that would never have any type of issues or problems continuing to talk about Lacey and talk about memories with Jake and stuff like that, so that there would be no jealousies or division or concerns. And so even just those 3 things, I was sitting there looking at that and realized very quickly, yeah, I'm probably going to be alone the rest of my life, because I'm not going to compromise on these things just because I want someone in my life or I'm lonely, because ultimately it's about the kingdom and it's about the ministry. And so if that's a sacrifice I have to make, then that's the sacrifice I'm going to make, because the ministry comes first, the kingdom comes first. And so I wasn't looking for anybody. And so to walk into that room, I'm just going there, I mean, you could say a ministry assignment. I'm walking in the room and then meet her, and we begin to talk, and I began to find out very quickly that just those 3 things was check, check, check. And then just to see, you know, ministry minded, believe like I believe. And then there was the healing piece that, for me, that's my focus. It's the thing I've given my life for. And to find out that that's been a passion of hers and been in her since she was a teenager.
A few months after that took place, that's when we discovered that there was a connection with another lady that actually is in the area that we pastor in, and how God just supernaturally connected them together, and that's April.
Afterwards, when he reached out, knowing my situation and where I have walked through, we began to talk on just online, and just the connection, and now questioning things like meeting him in person and knowing that something took place in that room 914. I did have questions and I was intrigued, but at the same time, our relationship was really just growing in friendship. and sharing the past experience that we had both had, even in ministry, and all the things for his future and my future and how they really match up.
So Chad would call and say, man, I don't know what's happening. I mean,
well, we have the pleasure of knowing her parents.
Yeah. So there's that connection that we have. Her parents come to our church for a number of years, so we have history with them. We actually have a history with her extended family, and so it was kind of amazing. It was shocking to see how quickly God was doing this.
So David and I, we left the hospital, and I began to ask David questions because, one, I mean, I was like, she's absolutely beautiful, but two, like there was something really spiritual that happened there in the hospital room. It was just a surreal moment when I was standing on one side of the hospital bed and she was on the other side of the hospital bed, and we're sitting there and praying for my ministry partner, her cousin. It was something that really impacted me. It was just something I don't even really know how to explain in words, but just there was a connection that took place there. And so when we left the hospital, I was asking David some questions, and through the conversations found out that she had gone through a similar experience like me, that she had lost her spouse 2 years prior. And so that led to me reaching out to her, and we began to talk some more. Just through Facebook Messenger, I was asking questions about how she had handled things with her kids, because she has 2 children, and I've got my son, and just trying to walk through this experience. I knew nobody that was my age or even similar that had gone through anything like this. And so it was really comforting just to be able to have someone that had gone through the same thing, understood the emotions and walked through it, had a little bit more experience with it than I did. So we're doing ministry together, and there was all these wonderful things that she brought to it. She was very much the creative side of things and the fun side of things. And you know, that's a piece that's missing with me. That wasn't my talent, that wasn't my anointing. And so that was definitely a piece that was missing. And you know, some people would think that I'm looking for a replacement. Some people would maybe even think I was just looking for someone to take care of my son so I could travel and continue doing ministry and stuff. And that's not what I'm looking for at all. I know I could never replace her. I'm not looking to replace Jake's mother and replace Lacey, and I know, April's not looking to replace Martin. But in reality, what it is, it's a new beginning. It's a new step, it's a new phase to the ministry, it's a new piece to the ministry.
You know, one of the things early on is I know that some people might have a kind of negative view of how quickly this relationship was formed, but Jennifer, I think that you have the best perspective that I'd heard as we talked about it, and what your perspective as a wife, as a mother, actually is.
Well, as we were discussing it, I guess the 2 things that it just kind of leaped in me. The first one was, I'm a mother of 3 grown children, and I have 5 grandchildren, 6 is on the way. But me as a mom, and I was looking at it from that perspective with Jake, and I thought, I know April. I mean, I've had the pleasure of, again, meeting her parents, and what mother would not want someone to take care of her child? And that's just where my heart went, is that if this is of God, who would not want someone that God ordained himself to help raise my child? So that's where my heart went as a mom. And let's see, the second one was really about April, her story, and losing her husband for a number of years. And why not? Why do things have to wait?
It's tough. I don't think anybody will ever fully understand what that's like from the standpoint of, one, not a lot of people are in a position where they've been married and then all of a sudden they lose their spouse after 20 years. Some people are in that position, but then to be in that position, then also have a ministry that's been growing and expanding, yet you're still responsible for that. And for me, that's always been the thing that's driven me over the last 20 years. And so to know that every decision that I make, it's kind of a make or break deal. As far as the ministry, that was a big thing as far as meeting April. And even though that she was sweet, she was attractive, seeing that there was different talents and stuff, I knew like that's not enough. Like it's got to be God behind all of this. And so keeping the ministry piece the primary focus of every decision that I made, and allowing that to be the thing that drives me. I mean, it's kind of like, for the first time, I kind of understood some things that Jesus said when he told the disciples. They're talking about getting some food, and he said, there's food that I have you don't know of. My food is to do the will of the Father.
I've known Chad as a single guy, and I've known April as a single woman. But I can't tell you of a better match than the two of them together. When Chad first told me that they were kind of talking, they were communicating, immediately I knew this is perfection. I think I even came home and told you that Chad and April are talking, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. This is a match made in heaven. And I am so thrilled that God put these two people that I love and that I care so deeply about, put them together. I'm thrilled. They're such great people individually, and then together. Really the only phrase I have is, it's a match made in heaven.
And from that, and just talking and finding out, we shared so many similarities. Like actually our very best friends that she and Martin had shared, and me and Lacey had shared, for 20 years, our best friends were all the same.
The last 2 years has been a little bit of a roller coaster, with going from being a stay-at-home wife and mom for 21 years and then going into running a business and juggling being a mom and supportive to your children who've lost their father, and me who'd lost my husband. So that was a little bit of a roller coaster. And as I tell everyone, I don't know how anyone gets through this without God. And He's walked along our side the whole way. And coming into 2023, which had been close to 2 years, I was ready to start moving forward with my future. I didn't want to be alone forever. Didn't necessarily mean I was ready or looking for anything at the moment, but I was just wanting my children's hearts to start being prepared. And so 2023, we went into the year with 21 days of prayer and fasting. And I was focused on, God, I need you to do a miracle in my kids' lives where they're prepared, you're preparing their hearts for our future. Not just my future, but our future.
And then God did a thing. And God has continued to do a thing in Chad and Jake's life, and has brought them peace, and has brought them joy, and has brought them fulfillment. It's been an incredible journey that I've had a front row seat to. They came and stayed with me and my wife a couple times. They didn't live with us, but they were there extended periods. We spent time together, and I've watched the growth and the transformation and I've watched God work in their lives. It's been really beautiful.
At first, I wasn't like the biggest fan, but I felt, whenever he told me, I felt inner peace like inside me. Like God was like telling me like it was gonna be good. And like honestly, that's probably one of this has been like a really good thing to happen in my life. It's helped me a lot.
So 2021, my dad passed away. It was hard. I thought I was gonna have to be the man in the house, and immediately like I shut off the idea of like my mom finding a new dude. I was like, I don't want this to happen at all. And then 2 years later, she kind of opened up. She was like, hey, look, there's this guy. He's a real good dude. He's in travel ministry and all this. And after talking to her about it, I kind of opened up to the idea, and I wasn't totally against it. So, I mean, it's been good.
In 2001, I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, went to Rhema Bible training center at the time, and Chad was on the basketball team, and I actually was a basketball coach at Rhema, so I coached Chad. And so the next year, after being so close with Martin and April, I ended up meeting Chad, and they never knew each other the whole time, which is amazing, because when all of this took place about 2 years ago for April, when Martin went on to heaven, and then when Lacey moved on to heaven, I saw it and I thought about it, and I said, this would be amazing if they could meet, because God is a God. He provides. He provides all of our needs. And I heard a story the other day about happily married people get married quickly after they are happily married.
I'm certainly surprised, mostly because I don't live in the same city, right? So I didn't have any idea that anyone lovely had come along. But I immediately had a peace. In no way does, Chad moving on and getting married discount Lacey. He was faithful to her. They had a good life. He loved her. And unfortunately, she moved on, or maybe fortunately for her. And so there's just such a peace. And then, of course, having the opportunity to see them together, hear Jake talk about her, April, and just hear about the dynamic and the family unit, it really gives me a joy that they've got someone here to take care of them.
So through this whole thing, my heart has been obviously for Chad and Jake, but it's also there for Lacey. And I don't want her, never wanted her to be forgotten, or to be replaced, or for anybody to even think that. So I had this thought, or somebody told me, or my pastor told me, or something. We don't know what's going on in heaven. We don't know that Lacey hasn't gone and talked to Jesus and said, Jesus, I want somebody there, a loving, caring woman in my son's life. Somebody that'll nurture him and guide him from a woman's perspective. He's got Chad, a man's man, but he needs a soft touch too. And he needs somebody that will love him like he's their own. And that's what I've seen in April. April has come in and has embraced Jake and loves him like she loves Logan, like she loves Savannah, her own kids. She has both physically and emotionally just wrapped her arms around Jake and pulled him in tight and said, you're mine. And I love that. It touches me to see the way that they have come together, Jake and April. It's beautiful, and I see God's hand in it.
Both widowers, I say lost their spouse, but both had their spouse that moved on to heaven. And I was sitting there, my wife, told her, I said, I just saw a post from April. Then about 5 minutes later on Facebook, I saw a post from Chad. And I said, when the time's right, I think I need to work on hooking these two up and seeing if we can get them together. But about 3 to 4 days later, Chad sent me a picture, and it was him and April, and I didn't even know they knew each other. And then when I talked to him, he said, it's amazing. They didn't know each other, but they found out they all knew the same people. They had the same friends on both sides, but neither one of them had ever met. I had it in my spirit. 3 or 4 other of our friends, Dave Fowler, different people had it in their spirit that these needed to meet. And then when they met, it was just a God deal. And I believe God provides. God is a provider. He knows our needs. And for Chad and for April, I believe that this is a God-ordained marriage today.
Well, I felt that he was very excited about this individual that he met, enough so that he would bring her to Texas to introduce her to Wayne and I, and his brother and sister. And I automatically we just fell in love with April. She had such endearing qualities, so genuine. And I said, I just felt like it was, maybe we would have, some people may have said, oh, well, that's just too soon. No, we can't place a limit on, or we can't really speculate when that should occur for someone. That's based on each individual, and I just felt like it was God put it together.
I never thought I'd have a brother. Growing up, I'd always want to have a brother, just someone to mess with or have common ground instead of a sister always bossing me around. So it's been fun, for sure.
Jake and Logan they need their own show, the Jake and Logan show. They stay up at night talking when they're supposed to be in bed. They laugh together, wrestle together, play together. I mean, they're kind of a hoot.
I mean, of course, it's big brother, little brother. I'm always beating on them, wrestling them. But we can have serious talks when we need to. We got each other's backs.
It's helped a lot having April and Logan. April has filled like the position of like a mother figure. Like I know she's not replacing like my mom, but like she still like fulfills that like need in my life, having like a mother figure. And it's also been really nice having a brother with Logan. And whenever we're like, one of us is struggling, we have the other to lean on. And it's just been like amazing having a family like this.
Well, I really don't know a lot about a blended family, so this is all a new thing for me. And it has really, I prayed going into this that God bless it and His mercies and grace be on it, and this house be a house of peace and joy. And we know that all siblings in general, they will bicker and fight. But I truly am just seeing God on this. I mean, I can't. They're friends. They get on each other's nerves because that's normal, and pester each other. And I think it's more out to aggravate me. But it's really been a great, Savannah hasn't been around because she's in college, but it's been a great blend.
Chad's a cool dude, you know, we always say he's such a Chad, and we say it as a joke, but he's just really chill. Last night, we were all playing the piano and singing around it, because he can play the piano really well. I mean, just got a lot of many talents, I guess. But no, it's good. I learn something new every time I'm here, because I don't live here anymore. So he cracks me up though, and he makes Mom laugh a lot. So that's funny to see.
I really just fall in love with the fact that she just, number one, she loves the Lord. Two, she's very family first. She loves family. Number three, just seeing how she loves Jake and how she's really taken him in and really looks at Jake as one of her kids. And it touches me all the time, just sitting around and watching the way that she interacts with him, and she loves on him, and even to the point where I walk in and there's a conversation taking place, I find out I've been left out because, you know, he was talking to her about it.
Chad is, I get emotional.
It's okay.
Literally thank God every day, me and my God time, of just how thankful I am for him. He is an amazing man, not just amazing man of God, but he's amazing to me and the kids. And he's so thoughtful and caring. And I pinch myself on the regular. Is this real?
She's just very simple and thankful for the little things. And I just love that. And then probably the last thing is just the fact that she's just absolute fun. She's just a big goofball. And she likes to have fun and goof off. And that's a piece I have to have in my life, because I have a tendency to be real serious and conservative.
He's somebody I can talk to if I need him. And he's real. He's not afraid to say what's right.
It's honestly been like a really easy adjustment. Like, it hasn't been that struggling. Like, God has really helped me, like, emotionally. like preparedness and getting through all this. And like I really haven't had like any struggle, and I'm really thankful for April, and I'm really glad she's in my life.
I feel like they fit. Like everything they want in somebody is each other, and it couldn't be better than it is.
I mean, I love seeing her so happy, you know. It's definitely been different for me, not in a bad way, just because I live away from everyone, so I don't get to be around everyone all at once. And so when I come home, it's like I missed a chapter or something. But it's been really good. I mean, they laugh so hard together. I think they constantly help each other grow in their relationship with God and just their walk every single day. And it makes me really happy to see her happy.
Officiating this wedding was very much an honor and a treat. Like I said, knowing the past of both and being in both of their lives for so long, and just how God orchestrated this. I know it was God. This is not a, you know, this is no question in my mind that this is that God ordained this this marriage. So coming up to Birmingham to do this wedding, very, very honored, very blessed. Love April, sweet, sweet spirit. Chad, we stay in contact continually. So being able to do it, very honored, because I believe this couple is going to do great things for the kingdom.
I didn't want to do life alone. I certainly don't want to do ministry alone. And there's things of my life, things that I see in me that, you know, I'm not good at, certainly missing some things that, you know, she brings to the table, things that she's strong at. And so, you know, there's always been the old saying, you know, teamwork makes a dream work, and two are better than one. And so I just know moving forward that God's got some great things in store, not only for us, but the millions and millions of people all around the world that are going to be impacted by it. And I'm just really, really excited to see what God's going to do through us and do through the ministry moving forward.
Out of that has just blossomed a great friendship with Chad, and we love him, love his ministry, and it's really been awesome just to watch his life and just to kind of journey with him.
As far as what things look like moving forward, I do know that moving forward, she's going to be with me, and she's not going to be just by my side. We're going to be doing this together, doing ministry together, and so I'm just really excited moving forward. We've got the books that we're working on. We've got new books that we're working on, and just it's been fun just being able to sit down and talk with her about different things I'm thinking about, and bouncing things off of her and getting her ideas and her perspective on things.
And I feel like my job in life is to do something in worship, whether it's like play an instrument or sing or write songs, but I really think I'm going to do something in worship.
I very much want to see the entire family a part of the ministry. I never wanted this to be just me. I never wanted to do this alone. And so it's been really fun, you know, even the last few months, just having Jake travel with me and seeing him be a part of it. And then April, very much ministry minded, and I love the fact that the healing piece is a part of her as well. It's a passion within her. And so for us to be able to do ministry together, just April and I, and then also have the kids involved. So it's been really cool just seeing also the things that Logan, that he's got talents and graces for, and that Savannah does as well. And so seeing how the things that they can bring into, even though they're young, seeing the things that they can bring into the different pieces of the puzzle, and how it's actually going to help the ministry go even further and bring in some pieces that I didn't even see were available or were even missing, but to see all that to come together. And I think it's just going to take the ministry to another level.
Yeah, I am thrilled to be able to spend more time with Chad and April and their kids.
I'm looking forward to the future of us traveling together and being along his side in the ministry aspects of everything, and really even walking out what God's placed in my heart.
10 years, what do I see? 10 years, I would foresee that, one, the ministry's thriving, and we've grown together and growing together as a couple and growing together in the ministry, and And then just as far as family, I mean, 10 years down the road, I would assume that there's been marriages possibly taking place between the kids and maybe even grandkids, and just really enjoying life and enjoying life and enjoying just all the wonderful things that God has brought our way. Just, you know, everything that you go through in situations like this, it really changes your perspective on life. It makes you extremely grateful for not only everything you have, but extremely grateful for even just the little things. And so I'm very much looking forward to the future and all that God has for us. But in the end, I'd want to see that 10 years down the road that we've grown and we've impacted people all around the world, and that we're still in the midst of fulfilling the vision and call of God in our lives.
I'm sure that we will have some little grandkids running around, and he'll be Grand G. And I see great things happening, even more advanced than we've ever can even imagine in the ministry, and stories and testimonies continuing.
You know, I'm really thrilled both for my good friend, Chad, and for my lifelong friend, April. And the reason is because they have found somebody that complements them. They are a perfect match. April is funny in her way, and Chad is funny in his way, and they are even funnier together. They are word-minded. April is word-minded in one way, and Chad is word-minded in another way. And coming together, it's the parts are greater. The sum is greater than the parts. They complement each other so well. It adds to and is something bigger than either of them could be individually. And that's what's so great about this union of the two of them together.
We're definitely having to learn each other's like humor and certain things that upset each other, which we're getting better at, I'd say. So yeah, that's about it for me. Feel like I can mess with him if I want to. Still kind of intimidating because he's pretty built.
Honestly, with April, it almost feels like she's been here like the whole life. I feel like we've bonded pretty good and quickly. And then the same thing with Logan almost. Still like learning each other a little bit, but we've gotten pretty close pretty fast, I would say.
Well, first of all, I'm outnumbered. That's true. I'm outnumbered right now. But it's been a learning curve for us. I love Jake as my own. It's been wonderful between us, and watching the boys grow in their relationship has been really sweet. Listening to them laugh when they're supposed to be in bed, and all I hear is laughs or booming upstairs because they're wrestling. Even though they're supposed to be asleep, it blesses me to hear that laughter. And Chad and I are learning how to blend and mold the family together, and we're getting there.
It's been great, and but yeah, like we're just having to learn each other and kind of learn roles, boundaries, and likes and dislikes, and you know, it's not a challenging thing, but you know, as far as myself and April, the different ways she is parented and I have parented, and I have a tendency to be a little more lax in things, and
Maybe.
and she's a little bit more strict.
Very.
Too much.
I am not.
Take the doors off the Jeep.
And
You are a lot more.
but just trying to learn that, and but it's been challenging in those ways, but it's fun, and I'm just, in spite of all that, just super grateful that we have each other in our lives, and grateful that we got the opportunity to walk this all out together.
Well, I'm one that hates change. So like stepping in this, being at peace about it was like a big God thing for me because I hate change. So definitely moving in together was the best part because that's when we became family.
Probably whenever me and my dad flew down here to visit them two in Savannah. It was a while back, and like just hanging out with everyone and like feeling accepted to a family and like just like really feeling a part of a big family. It just like kind of like touched me and just made me feel happy for like the first time in a long time. Like honestly, when I was a little kid, I didn't want siblings because I didn't want to share, but like I did kind of have like some regret, like not having siblings, like wishing I had siblings, like just like so I had more family. And then this is like perfect because now I have a brother and a sister, and they're the best brother and sister I could have.
Our first dinner at the table was special just because that's so important to me. And it's family and together, and a moment of hearing about the kids' day and what all was their favorite, their highs and their lows, and just even praying together before we eat. Just a special moment for me. Over the last 2 years, we do, when everybody's in town, we eat at the table, but with kids' lives and schedules, it's been a while since we've paused and said, let's be together. So.
Well, I was going to say the first dinner at the table. That was what I was going to say. Yeah, I can't use that. But probably something similar would be just the first time we were all out in the back, on the back deck here at night, just sitting there and just enjoying the breeze and talking with each other and stuff like that. And that family piece of feeling that, and that not only feeling that, but also seeing how quickly everything came together and how God took people's emotions and feelings and maybe things they didn't want and changed hearts and turned hearts, and very quickly has molded everything together. Well, for me, I mean, all I can do is just sit back and just look and say it's just grace, 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 because number one, I wasn't looking for anything. The reason I wasn't looking for anything, number one, was because I just didn't think it was even possible, because I already had very set pieces that if I ever did get married again, these were set things that I was not going to compromise on. And they were so specific and so absolutely impossible. I just didn't think it was possible. And so I've just been amazed at just how, not only how quickly he brought her into my life, but then how perfect of a thing it was, just, you know, for myself, for Jake, and then seeing on the opposite side for her and for Logan and Savannah. I don't see how it could have been done any more perfectly than it was. Just,
yeah.
I try not to get emotional thinking about it, because it's just you couldn't write it any better, and you couldn't. I still don't even see how it was even possible for it to even happen. Much less for it to happen as quickly as it did and as smoothly as it did. Like, I think I'm a smart guy, but I know I couldn't have made it happen like that. And I'm amazed every time I look at it, and just extremely grateful for everything that God's. I mean, that's something that I've added to my prayers. Jake and I would pray each night together. And it's something I've added in what I pray with him at night and before we go to bed, and then when I drop him off at school, as a father, I thank you for I thank you for what you brought us through. but also thank you for what you brought us into. So I'm just eternally grateful. And so I look at her and I love her, but just, I'm just so, I tell her all the time, I'm so thankful. I'm very, very thankful for her. I'm just grateful for what God's done for us.
I see increase, multiplication, and overflow coming for Chad Gonzales Ministries, simply because God provided this. I believe God knew what Chad needed, and he needed his helpmate. He needed a helpmate, and he needed someone alongside to help him do what God has called him to do. And now it's not what he's called him to do, it's what he's called them to do. And they are now doing this ministry together. And it is amazing even to hear April's testimony on how God started dealing with her heart. She was going away from ministry at one time, but now she wanted to go back into ministry, and how God's orchestrated this, and it's amazing.
I wasn't looking for anyone. I just went on a ministry assignment, so to speak, to go pray for a partner of mine, and walked into a room and basically walked into a room not only to do ministry, but to find an answer to prayer. And got two miracles, a healing miracle and a miracle in a spouse and ministry partner and friend.